miles away. But they still could not detect us. Miles on direct fire. Miles away 68. My lifeguard has a little concussion. I wanted to be a sniper. Where is tank? Where is it? Let me go for a ride. We will scare them. The guys are motivated. They laugh all the time. There is no fear. Fear is gone. These tattoos are not that simple. The cards mean that I like taking risks. It refers to a war. I like taking risks if there is a crew, for example, who may not be a great. With the current task, if it is very dangerous and the guys are afraid for their lives, well, I take on this task with my crew. I have a strong will to kill those bastards, so to speak, because they have done a lot of harm to my family and to me as well. They shot my sister, her brother, and their family in Kharkiv. A lot of my friends have perished on this war. In my battalion. And I promised myself I will not give up on any assigned tasks until the war is over, no matter what it is, even if it's death. Even if it's death. Tell me, what is your call sign? David. Why? Because I was into a football. I used to study in a football academy and stuff, and when I came here to serve, we had tournaments between units. And they called me David Beckham, and that's how the call sign came about. Also, my surname is Davidovich. D is for David. My family also calls me David. My mother is like, once my friends came and asked, where is David? And my mother was like, that what is David? It's your son, he is not David, he is Vitally, oh come on, he is David. Call sign is David, a football player. Typical Bakhmut. Fire. I always tell that, if God wants me to die today, it does not matter if it happens, at war or not. As I stand here, there can be a shelling in any minute, but thank God, I haven't died at war yet. My lifeguard, he has a little concussion, and I carry on. How old are you? 22. I am definitely old, laughing 54. And that's it. My crew is young. I mean, it used to be young. Maxim is 21 years old. He will be 22 soon. Gunner. It turned out recently that he is my relative. My gunner, yeah. Even my uncle, you could say. How you found out about it, by accident? Yeah, by accident. My gunner. Something happened to him. He had to leave this job. And then Tolik came. Tolik, they said he'll be with you. And at the same time, about 2 weeks later, after we liberated Kherson region, I found out that he was my relative on my father's side. He was also surprised. And we still live next to each other, about 60 miles. And it turns out that he is my relative yet. You don't have to be afraid of death. The more you are afraid of it, the sooner it will come to you. So you are not afraid of death. I am not afraid. Everyone is afraid of death, but I am. Of course, there is a certain amount of fear. Fear that you will fall on battlefield. But it's like when you go on a mission, you are thinking about things to come. And when you're on a task, you don't think about it at all. Your only idea is to do your job and keep your crew alive. Get them out of the fire, and that's it. That's the only thing on your mind. Not to screw up, and so that the infantry is always happy that you cover them and do your job. Because if a tank was going to help the infantry and did nothing, it's not considered to be helping the infantry. You let them down.
Це, вважайте, не допомога піхоті. Це чисто підвели піхоту.
That's why we always prepare our vehicles to support them in any possible way. Bakhmut direction. Donetsk Riga Sergei. What's the name of this tank? How do you call it gently? Oh, he does not have any call sign. Music playing. Come on, quietly, on pace. Fire, fire. Gunshot sounded. Under what conditions can a tank crew member become an infantryman? If the tank is lost. I had such experience. Tell me how it happened. Your comrades told me that it happened in Kherson region. It happened in Kherson Oblast, right? We were assaulting one of the villages. Our task was to recapture it and establish a position there. 58. It was on August 29th. I still remember it from August 28th to 29th. My task was to guide the infantry along the village and establish a position there, and to hold the positions 61 until the next group replaces us. But before we even got there, an artillery shell hit under the turret. Closer to the engine. Half of the turret was destroyed, and the loading mechanism got broken. We fired at the anti-tank guided missiles. The first target was a TGM anti-tank guided missiles, 66, because if a TGM hits the tank, it's very dangerous for the tank crew. We destroyed a TGM.
І нам якраз попався артилерійський снаряд в башню, це було десь ми не доїжджали до кілометра до селища.
Our loading system failed. The tank could not fire in any case.
Ні в якому случаї у нас...
Was it moving? It was moving. It got to the final destination. Barely we made it. We took up positions where we were supposed to be, and it could not start anymore. And what did you do next? The infantry platoon leader came to me then. He's no longer with us, unfortunately. And he asked, can the tank fire it? I said, no, the tank can't fire anymore. He said, there's an armed personal carriers, armed personnel carrier there. There are also a lot of MUCs or PG-18, NOS anti-tank guided missiles, everything you need. Take it and take up a defensive position. So we stood there and thought, what should we do? At first, I called for the tank's evacuation while it was still functioning, and then we had to silence it because of the noise. We don't hear the enemy. They refused to evacuate us because we passed the first enemy defense line. We just drove through it. They simply let us through. And there was a battle behind us. If we were to turn back, it was clear that we would not make it. They could literally destroy us, especially when it no longer shoots. Only the machine gun worked, and there were no more bullets left. I fired everything at the enemy, and we had to take defensive positions with the infantry. This mechanic Maxim ran after the tank, trying to catch it. Fired with everything he had. We also worked with the infantry, with the platoon. I was in the platoon and also worked with the machine gunner, sniper. So we held the defense as long as we could. A couple of times, I almost got killed. I still remember there was such a building. It turned out that they were using 2S7 Pion because there was such a heavy strike. I will never forget it. It buried me under the wall of the building. I was under the building with my gunner, opening the ammo box because there were no more bullets. We had to reload. And then this strike hits the house, and this wall just falls on me. I still can't figure out how my gunner managed.
Я от досі не можу поняти, як мій наводчик встиг от просто вибігти. І мене завалило.
At that moment, infantry was opposite us, and the infantry pulled me out by the arms like a dummy. They pulled me out. I just dusted myself off and said, everything's fine. I crossed the road, hid myself behind another wall, and then it hit me again, and I got covered again. But this time I managed to get out on my own. Reinforcements could not reach us because they were clearing the way for us to retreat. We accomplished the assigned task, but our reserves simply could not reach us in time. At 6 a.m., we started an offensive and returned at 5 a.m. when we were evacuated. We held the defense the whole day and the whole night. The sound of a running engine, the task was tough. We set off for the mission yesterday at 6 in the morning.
Вчора в 6
Daily rotations, so to speak, a daily shift
суточне чергування для
in support of the infantry. Around 12 noon, we received an order that an enemy tank had been spotted.
Поступило до нас, скажімо, такий наказ, що замітили танк противника.
We had to neutralize it. It seems that it went for a reload undercover, and we started to hit it.
І ми почали в ньому працювати.
And it turned out that we were nearby, and the last round hit it directly. How long have you been hunting for it? We were lucky that it drove in and stopped, but we were trying to spot it for a long time. My guys spotted it 4 days ago, but it was too far to reach, and yesterday we were just lucky that it came and the distance allowed us to hit it. And where are you fighting now? On the Donetsk direction, precisely. Is it harder to fight here than in Kherson region? In my opinion, for tank crew, I don't know how it is for infantry or artillery. But for a tank crew, it's easier here than in the Kherson region. In the Kherson region, we engaged at close range, and it was tough. The enemy returned fire in response immediately, using everything they had, all the reserves, all the artillery, everything. They fear tanks.
Тут, не знаю, тут якось легше. Ми виїжджаємо на 1700, я виїжджав на 700 метрів.
We engaged recently, and I got behind the enemy's lines. It was much easier.
Легше було набагато. Якось не працює.
They fear tanks, they hide from them, but the artillery does not work as effectively as in the Kherson region. Maybe there are no such advanced technologies here as they had in Kherson. What do you mean? In Kherson, there was something like, I don't remember how it's called. They had some equipment that detected sound and ground vibrations. I don't know what kind of equipment it was, I don't remember the name of it. But when a tank was moving and the ground was shaking, they knew where it was located and where it was hanging. No wing. And they were already hitting. They were already hitting them on the road. Plus, they launched shrapnel tracks. Here, drones fly, but thank God there hasn't been anything like that yet, like in Kherson. The only dangerous thing here is that Lancets fly. These are drones that can hit. They don't disable the tank, they can simply neutralize it. Let's say, damage the optics, damage the armor, temporarily take it out from the mission, and that's all. But these are just minor details. Youth in the war at 22. I think you don't really want to run around looking for cover. Well, how to say? Well, as everyone says, no one but us. But who besides us? No one. Something says there are many young guys here. I don't know, I just have this feeling that young people are drawn to war. And maybe it's because they don't have their own family, if I may say so. A built future, and that's what they crave here. I learn and learn and learn, and I'm glad I decided to learn. I know more about this vehicle now I became the commander of the tank. It gave me a great opportunity. During this war, it's because you know a lot. I know a lot, and I know certain tactics, how to work correctly, work in a platoon when there are 3 tanks. 2 tanks, I know how to work alone with 1 tank. I know how to work with infantry. And during a war, this practice. During a war, you gain more practical experience, and you gain more knowledge during a war as well. The tank. As we arrived here, we knew nothing about this place. I asked the commander to let me take the tank for a ride. Let me take it for a ride, we will scare the enemy as well, and show them that we have tanks and I will know the roads and paths. The sound of a running engine. and so on. We drove back and forth, shooting here and there. Now I know everything about the entire front line. 10 miles long. Did you choose this brigade because of your entire friend? Yeah, because of my friend. He used to serve in this brigade. And it was also closer to my home. It's an Odessa brigade, and I'm from Odessa myself. So it would be closer to home. But personally, I don't have a strong desire to get home. I don't have such an inspiration for that. Of course, my relatives are waiting, parents are waiting, Avarian is waiting. And for me, it's enough to come home once every 6 months, for about 5 to 10 days. That's enough for me. We had a situation where we were heading on a task, and I took my phone, put it in my helmet, and we were listening to music. There was a song titled Nezhnye Dogonit. It was Russian. But at that moment we were retreating. The enemy's artillery was catching up to us, trying to hit. I thought, why will not we have fun? So I took my phone and inserted it into the headset. It encouraged us so much. The guys were laughing. There was no fear, it disappeared. So I don't know. It's just like, you shouldn't set yourself up for the worst. It's crucial. Always think about the job and that everything will be fine. Do you want to have a family and children at the age of 22? Of course, everyone wants a family, and I want it too. But after the war, everything after the war. Nowadays, many people get married, even during the war. But I don't even think about it. Why? War is such a thing. You may not come back. I don't want to make someone's life worse. It's not that getting married is bad, but if you marry someone and then die, you'll ruin someone's life, so to speak, and that person will always remember you. That all shall pass. They should live their life, but in a year or two. It depends on the person. They will always blame themselves. Every person blames themselves for someone's death, even if they weren't present. Did you experience that too? Blaming yourself. Yeah, I blamed myself. I blamed myself when Chai died. I also blamed myself. Why did not I go with him? Why was not I there by his side? I also blamed myself. I asked myself a lot of questions. I could have been there. I would have wanted to. I would have wanted to. But it's always the same. The guys went on a mission, and we have this belief they'll complete their task. They'll come back. We will sit together, have a talk, have a cup of tea, light up a fire, and everything will be all right. Well, of course, I hated myself. I understood that maybe if I had been beside him, I could have covered him when we were retreating, or something else. In the war, we meet people, and unfortunately lose them. Sometimes they can be good acquaintances, and sometimes these people become our friends. How do you personally deal with loss? Loss while constantly being in stress and danger. So you don't allow yourself to break down, or how does it work? Well, when it happened to me, friend died. We met in the army. His call sign was Chai T. A lot of people know him in this brigade. When he died, I was not there. I was supposed to be his future godfather. He had just become a father, and then another child came. And when he died, I found out about it a bit later. At first, there was an information that he is wounded in action, that he is critically wounded. But the morning after, I found out he is killed in action. You know, I felt aggression. I became mad. I remember I came to the infantry commander and said, let me go anywhere. Right into those trenches. Anywhere, I said. I was very aggressive. I calmed down after that, and it passed somehow. Of course, it's sad to you lose loved ones. It's the same thing with the family. When they were shot in Kharkiv, I also found out. It was in April, I think. I don't remember. Was it your blood sister? No, not my blood sister. It was my cousin. my mother's cousin's daughter.
Моєї матері сестри та дочка.
They were evacuating from Kharkiv, and
Евакуйовували з Харкова і
it happened that they knew where the enemy was, and the enemy armed personal carriers came out and shot them right there.
на місці їх розстріляв. Потім вони якраз їхали з
They were moving at high speed. I don't know, maybe the enemy thought they were foes or something, and they were shot on the spot. The man, he was still in intensive care, but he did not survive either due to severe injuries.
Він теж із-за тяжких поранень не вижив.
It was tough. At that time, I had just arrived in the Kherson region, and the enemy was gradually advancing. You know, it all passed quickly with time, somehow. It happened that I came home relaxed and realized that 2 weeks had already passed. Well, 2 weeks. Time passed quickly. This loss. It was not easy to handle it, but it passed quickly. Because time has passed it. Yes, and there was a lot of work. There was a lot of work, and we did not even sleep for days. Night tasks, day tasks. It just faded away quickly. It's easier for me to forget it because I understand that it's war. 216. Well, it was, what can you do? If I were with my friend, I know maybe I could have saved him. It's all in God's hands. Who knows, perhaps we would have all perished on the spot. What kind of tank are we currently sitting on? It's an old one, from 1987. It's T-64. Does it have a call sign? Chuman the Fog. Why is that? Chuman. My first vehicle was named Chuman, and they call this one Chuman as well. You see, when we were working in Kherson region, 221, we came up with a strategy among the crew members. We decided to work early in the morning when the fog rises, 222, and in the evening. This way, our enemy could not spot us with their drones, 223. They could not pinpoint our location, our current position. It was very dangerous as we operated very close to the enemy. We work during the day and at night. They're trying to track us. We don't even have a time to get into position. And the enemy along this region have already knew where we were and where we are heading. And we were like, it happened once that we urgently had to leave. In the morning, to engage enemy infantry, we would go out during the fog. They were looking for us, claiming that the drones were flying and shells were falling nearby. So we started operating like that in the early morning and in the evening, and we named the tank Chuman. Is the same tactic used now? Oh no, the tactic here is different now. The heights are different here. Comparing to Kherson region, the distance is also different. It's no longer possible to work this way. Most of the time we go on direct aiming, and the direct aiming is bad. When there is a fog, we don't see the enemy through the sight. Can we say that you love your machine? Definitely. We have a new T-64 tank delivered from the factory 3 days ago, and I was supposed to get it. I refused to take it. This one is my tank, even if it's in such a condition, not painted in the mud, soaked in rain. But it has never let me down. It always got us out of the firing line and would break down immediately, but has never let us down, even when it was stuck in the mud. It always got us out, and I decided to stay. With this machine, the sound of a running engine, Kherson Oblast, what do you like besides this tank in your life? Oh, in general, when I joined the service, I wanted to be a sniper. My soul was drawn to it. I love watching all sorts of videos about snipers. My soul is also drawn to them. How to properly support the soldiers who are currently in the combat zone. I mean, for their relatives, wives, girlfriends, to support them morally. What's better to say? What's better not to say? Never mention the war. If I talk to my parents, I warn them right away, never start talking about the war. When you talk to a person who was in the trenches, for example, with infantrymen who are now mostly there, he feels the full weight of the war, being an infantryman. 253. He just came back from rotation from the trenches. He knows that in a week he'll be back there again, facing the same things. 254. They ask him about the war over the phone when he wants to find out about his family, to talk to his children. 255. Mother, father, wife. He just needs to relax. 256. But when they talk to him over the phone about the war again, explosions, rockets flying over Odessa. 257. Even such simple things, like someone got killed there, 258, or they buried someone else in another village, it really saddens him. It really makes him upset. 259. Panic starts again, and you start thinking about the war again. 260. It puts you in a state where thoughts of going back to the trenches overwhelm you, and it's terrifying. That's how I can put it. Does the level of anxiety increase? Yes, the level of anxiety increases, and that's why it's better not to talk about it at all. You know, people might be afraid to talk about it. 263. To soldiers, it's because there's a feeling like, maybe others also have it. But you know, the guilt that they are fighting there, and we're here resting. Yes, there is also that, even in my case, I have a comrade just as young as I am, and his peers are now hiding from the war, and when he talks to his sister, she says, we were at the bar with the guys today. He asks her, why did I come here, and they will not go. He knows that there are people who are unable to go due to circumstances, health, or something else, but when they just don't want to because fear or something else. And what do you think about it? My opinion is that let them go. Maybe the time will come when he will have to join the army. It does not matter. Right now, he can go out and have fun, relax. But tomorrow, the moment may come when he will have to go. They will force him to, even if he does not want to. Because right now, we are holding the front, but tomorrow everything may change, everything may shift, and the Russians may move towards Odessa again. And he who is now in Odessa, while they move towards his family. Well, I don't think he's such a fool who will just be standing and watching. But people are different. Maybe I will not argue. But anyway, just like during the war, as soon as the full-scale invasion started, there were a lot of people who voluntarily left their families, bid farewell to them because they understood they might not come back, and they still went to war. People just forgot what war looks like. I think that about 20 to 25% of people no longer think about it. They live their lives, they are fine, everything is going well for them. They have business, job, family, children. They are all fine, and nothing worries them. There are a lot of people who help give money, and I'm very grateful for that. Yes, these people understand that there's a war here. Look, I have a lot of friends who already say there is no war for us, and that's good. You don't communicate with them, right? I don't, right? That's the reason I don't communicate with them, because it's disgusting to hear that. The enemy was about 60 miles away from my home. These people were worried. They had nowhere to go. They were doing defensive actions there, pretending to be ready for a fight. But in our brigade, there is a unit. He drove the enemy out of that area, and that's it. For a month or two, or maybe 3, until May 2022. Everything is fine there, peace and calmness, and nobody gives a about the war anymore, and it continues to this day. So even now, thank you very much. Thank you too. Fire. The sound of explosion. By the way, sorry for the profanity, we've just hit the MTLB laughing.